Dear students, I welcome you in the online classes organized by ISB on the subject of research methodology. This is our lecture number 10 in this subject, and we started our journey by the definition of research, qualities of a good researcher, how to plan a good research. Dear students, then we stepped into the arena of methodologies. We discussed a number of methodologies, quantitative methodologies, and those methodologies which use qualitative approach. After the discussion of number of methodologies, we were faced with the question that as students of literature and language, what are those methodologies that are specific, proper, and suitable for research in literature and language? Dear students, we discussed those methodologies which are suitable for research in literature, and then we came to those methodologies which are suitable for research in the field of language. Dear students, we moved forward, and as I pointed out, that right from the lecture number 9, we have stepped into the practical side of this subject of research methodology. And what is that practical side of this subject? Dear students, what is the goal and destination that we want to achieve? The goal and destination is that at the end of this component, we must be able to write the research proposal, and we must also have the knowledge of how to write our thesis. Dear students, we know that proposal, a research proposal to be specific, is a kind of agenda, or it is a kind of outline that we suggest and propose for our research. So, actually in the research proposal, we include all those components that we are going to search out in our practical research. Dear students, by keeping in view this agenda and this program and this goal, in the previous lecture, we discussed research hypothesis, how to write a research hypothesis, and what are the forms of a research hypothesis. Dear students, that was our first step into that practical side of this subject. Now, by continuing on the same path, the second step into that practical nature of this component of course is the problem statement. That is the title of the topic that we are going to discuss today. Dear students, hopefully now this lecture will be connected to our previous knowledge. So let us move forward. The outlines of today's lecture, as I have already told you, the topic is the problem statement, and I want to remind you that the problem statement is also one of the basic points in the research proposal as well as in the research project, that is the writing up of thesis. So both hypothesis and now the problem statement, these are number one and number two practical aspects of the component of this course, that is research methodology. So we are going to define the problem statement. Then we will discuss how to write the problem statement. And there is a very interesting kind of grid that I have introduced in this lecture, and it will help you, this grid will help you in writing the problem statement. Dear students, at the end, as usual, I will set an exercise for you that you will have to solve. Now, the problem statement is a very basic and important part of any research. As I have already told you, that this is the foundation, one of the foundations on which later on we are going to erect our huge building of research. In all kinds of theses, we have to state the problem. Dear students, if I could remind you, when we were studying the design of the research or how to plan a good research, we also discussed the topic or the identification of the problem. So, in any kind of research, we have to identify the problem, and the words or the statement that is going to represent this problem is known as the problem statement. And we have to use specific language and terminology for the statement of our problem. Researchers and doctoral students have to face trouble in writing a problem statement. So why we are trying to teach you, or why we are learning how to write a problem statement? Because it has been a common observation that most of the researchers and even the doctoral students doing their PhDs have to face trouble in writing a problem statement. And as we have mentioned, we have to use specific language and terminology for the statement of our problem. So that sometimes creates trouble for writing up a problem statement. What is its purpose and what is its significance? It provides focus and direction to the study. So that is very important purpose of writing a problem statement, because it will direct your study towards a certain goal and target. So that makes it very significant, and that is why we say that it is a very basic and important part of any research. Now, these are the two definitions that we are going to use, and naturally, as we are going to define the problem statement, so we are going to use a bit of technical language here, but I will try to move forward step by step, and I will try to explain each step as we will move forward in these definitions. So the first definition is: a well-written problem statement defines the problem and helps identify the variables investigated in the study. So if we focus this sentence, then what we are saying, it defines the problem, number one, and second, it helps to identify the variable that we are going to investigate in our study. So problem and variable. First, we have to define the problem. Identification of the problem was the first step, if you remember. Now we are going to define that problem. It means we are going to describe that problem in a language. Then we know that in the research some variables are involved, and in research we try to establish a relationship between or among these variables, and sometimes we prove or disprove if there is any kind of relationship existed between or among these variables. So our problem statement defines, number one, the problem, and number two, it identifies what are the variables that we are going to study in this research. The problem statement provides two things. Number one, rationale for the study, means logic. What is the logic and what is the argument of this study? Why we are doing this study? It will provide the answer of why. Because we know that every significant research or study has some logic or argument behind it. So that is the rationale for the study. And number two, uses data and research to confirm the need to address the problem in the study. That is also very important point. Because not only we will provide the logic of our study, number one. Number two, we will use some data as well as the previous research of previous researchers. And with the help of that data and with the help of those references of previous researches, we will try to establish the need to address the problem. So that makes the problem statement important. Number one, we state our problem and we provide the logic why we are doing such and such research. And number two, we will give the reference of previous researches in the same field or on the same topic, and through those researches we will try to establish why this kind of research is needed. This definition was given by Miles in 2016. So if we focus this definition, first definition, then there is a rationale, and the second point that we should note is of need. So we will provide the rationale of our research or study, And second, we will try to establish, convince and persuade the people why it is needed to make such kind of research. Now, there is another definition, and it is using, why I am using this definition, because these definitions define many key terms which are involved in the problem statement. This was defined by Heron and Schwartz in 2007. A problem statement with many key definitions. The problem statement is defined in the following points. Number 1, clarity and precision. Means it is clear. The problem statement should be very much clear, and the person who is reading it must not be confused. It must be to the point, precise. A well-written statement does not make sweeping generalization and irresponsible statements. That shows the clarity and precision. We should not make a very sweeping kind of generalization, number 1. And secondly, we should not make irresponsible statements. Number 2, identification of what would be studied by avoiding the use of value-laden words and terms. So that is the identification of the problem, as we have studied in the first definition. So it will identify what we are going to study, but at the same time we will not use value-laden words and terms. Number 3, identification of an overarching question and key factors are variable. It is almost the same but a bit different in style. We will identify the main overarching, the central problem, central question. And also we will identify the key factors, or these key factors may be called variables. Now, then we will identify the key concepts and terms. Identification of key concepts and terms. Then articulation of the study's boundaries or parameters. We will also limit and clearly define the boundaries and parameters of our research. It will need some kind of generalizability. Means it is not making any sweeping kind of generalizability, but a very limited kind of generalizability that must be realistic. Then, conveyance of the study's importance. Why we are going to do this study, as we have already noted. Rationale, benefits, what would be the contributions of this study, and justifications. Regardless of the type of research, it is important to address the so what question and to demonstrate that the research is not trivial, not common. So it is a very notable point, and one should note it, that even your type of research is common, still you have to state it in such a way that you must establish its importance and its contributions and its benefits. And when you will give the answer of so what it is going to do, what it is going to contribute, what will be its benefits, what is its importance, and to demonstrate, and you will persuade the people, convince the people that your research is not something common. It is very important. No use of unnecessary jargon, showy words, claims, high and tall claims. Then, conveyance of more than the mere gathering of descriptive data. Providing a snapshot. You are not going to provide only the data to the people through your research, but you will give a summary of what you are going to do, snapshot. This pretty much lays down the foundation of what a problem is. So, your problem statement will lay down the foundation. Actually, it will not only identify the problem, but it will also identify the variables, as well as it will establish the requirement and need of the solution of this problem. So these were the two definitions that we have included in our lecture. But I hope through this definition you will have the glimpse of why the problem statement, what is problem statement, and how you would write this problem statement. Also, what are the key factors that you should include in your problem statement. Now, for the statement of the problem, always ask two questions. So, before writing up your problem statement, you must ask two questions from yourself. Why does this topic require investigation? That is very important, because if you are yourself not convinced about the importance of investigation, or the need or rationale of investigation, it will not be possible for you to convince other people that this topic was worth investigating. So ask from yourself, why does this topic require investigation? Second, what drives investigation? What are the factors behind this investigation? So then you will be able to answer these two questions. The writing of the problem statement will become easier. Now, why do researchers fail to develop a problem statement? I have seen that there are so many students, even at doctoral level, they find it difficult to develop. They know their problem, they know what they are going to investigate, but then you will give them pen and you will ask them, please write the problem statement. They will fail to develop it. Why? Number one, no compelling reason, because they do not think before the choice of the topic, what is the reason that is forcing them for this investigation and for this research. So when they will not ask this question from themselves, then naturally when they will sit and start writing a problem statement, they will not be able and they will fail to develop such kind of problem statement. Second, lack of persuasion. They are themselves not persuaded that the problem is worth investigating. So naturally, it will not be possible for them to develop a problem statement. Number three, clarity. They are not clear what they are going to do and how they are going to do. What is the design of their study? What is the model that they are going to apply? What is the theory that they are going to use? When they are confused themselves, it will not be possible to develop a problem statement. Topic choice is another reason, because the area that they have chosen, perhaps is perhaps not the area of their interest. Similarly, the topic that they have chosen, they have borrowed this topic from their teacher or from their supervisor or someone else, from their senior student. This is not the topic of their choice. So you have to explain this topic in your problem statement. And when this topic is not of your choice, then it will not be possible for you to explain it. For number 5, problem nexus. You have to build a relationship between the problem and the research. You have identified the problem. Okay. Now you have, in the problem statement, you have to build a relationship between that problem and your research, and that will also be a problem. So these are normally the 5 reasons why do the researchers fail to develop a problem statement. Now, while writing your problem statement, you should keep in mind 2 points. So now we are very near to the point when we will start writing our problem statement. But before that, you must keep 2 points in your mind. Number 1, uniformity. Your problem statement must be uniform. It means that it should have a logical coherence, connectivity. What you are saying in the first sentence and second and third and fourth of your problem statement, they should be interconnected, uniform. It means that what you are trying to say that I am going to investigate in the first sentence must not be contradictory to what you are going to state in the second sentence. And the completeness, your problem state must be an organic whole, a complete kind of statement. Now, writing up the problem statement, now we are at a point that after observing all those reasons which are involved in the failure to write a problem statement, then keeping in mind all the points which are required for writing up a problem statement, let us now start writing the problem statement. Miles, in 2017, suggested a grid for the problem statement. So this is a very interesting kind of grid that Miles suggested. It helps the researchers not only in the statement of the problem, but also it helps them to write the supporting statements related to the problem. So it will not only help in writing the main problem, but you have to write the supporting statements as well. So this grid will also help them in creating those supporting statements. Then this helps them in their thought process. I am going to discuss this grid on the next slide, but we should keep in mind its features. It will not only help to write up the main problem, but the supporting details. Then when we will write these supporting details, we have to think about those supporting statements. It means that it is helping in our thought process as well. So this is the grid for the problem statement. We have divided it into 4 parts. The part on the above is overall problem statement. This is the main statement of the problem. Then, what is the sub-problem number 1? These are the supporting details. Sub-problem number 2, sub-problem number 3. We have just taken the three subproblems. It might be only two subproblems in some kind of researches. So these are not, this grid does not show any hard and fast rules for writing problem statement. So first we will write overall problem statement, then subproblem 1, then subproblem 2, then subproblem 3. Now we are going to explain how to write overall problem statement and the subproblems as well. Now what is overall problem statement? Write and describe the overall problem as identified by the researcher. So what is the central problem that you have identified? And how you would write? I have said that there is specific language, technical kind of language that you will have to use. So for that, overall, after describing the overall problem, what you will write for that? The central problem to be researched by the proposed study is. So, because you are going to study, you have to make investigation later on. So, look at the language that we are going to use. The overall problem is the main or central problem. So, you will start writing like this. The central problem to be researched by the proposed study is. Then you will naturally write that central problem. With this overall problem statement, you will write the researcher identified three major problems as a basis for this study. So now you are going to write those subproblems. So you will write the researcher identified two major problems as a basis for this study. Now you are going to write those 3 or 2, whatever these are. These are the subproblems. Now this is an example that we have taken, and we will try to fill these gaps or these portions of the grid according to whatever we have defined earlier. Now this example is the topic of the research is feminism in the novels of Jane Austen. So this is our topic. This is a supposed topic, and we are going to set a problem statement for this topic, that is feminism in the novels of Jane Austen. Now I'm going to write in the overall problem as we have seen in the last slide. The central problem to be researched by the proposed study is feminism in the novels of Jane Austen. Now I have used the same words as we have already observed. So the central problem is that we are going to research in our proposed study feminism in the novels of Jane Austen. This has a lot to do with the assumption that the women writers write from the feministic point of view. So this was the second part of the overall problem. Why we are investigating feminism in the novels of Jane Austen? Because it has been assumed that the women writers write from the feministic point of view. As a basis for this study, the researcher identified the problem to be threefold. Now, I am writing according to that plan that we have studied. So what are those threefold or subproblems? Number 1. Most of the characters of Jane Austen are female, and the male characters are introduced in the company of female. This feature shows her tilt towards feminism. That is the subproblem. And if you observe, you will find that this is in support of whatever we have written in central problem. So these are three supporting details actually, or three supporting statements of the central problem. Number two, the feminist movement did not exist in the time of Jane Austen. It means she was a feminist before feminism. That is also sporting to our central problem, that is studying feminism in the novels of Jane Austen. And the third one is Jane Austen deals with the social problems about love and marriage that shows her interest with the problems of female. So, when we will write that problem statement, naturally we will write in a paragraph form, and we will connect all the three sub-problems with the first one. So, if we will write in the paragraph form, it will look like this. The central problem to be researched by the proposed study is feminism in the novels of Jane Austen. This has a lot to do with the assumption that the women writers write from the feministic point of view. As a basis for this study, the researcher identified the problem to be threefold. Most of the characters of Jane Austen are female, and the male characters are introduced in the company of female. This feature shows her tilt towards feminism. The feminist movement did not exist in the time of Jane Austen. It means she was a feminist before feminism. Jane Austen deals with the social problems about love and marriage that shows her interest with the problems of female. So this would be our problem statement. Dear students, with this we come to the end of our today's lecture. And in the end, I am going to set an exercise, but let us note that this exercise consists of two parts. Part A, define problem statement. What is its significance in the research? And B part is very interesting for you because you will have to work at your own to construct and write a problem statement. What is the B part? Select a topic of your choice and write a problem statement about it. So first you will select and suppose you are a researcher and you are going to select a topic for yourself, and then you will write a problem statement about it. So these are the two parts of the exercise. That's all from my side for today. Stay safe, stay blessed.